Hello everybody, I'm Asura and welcome to Asura Psych, and today I want to talk about the idea that a lot of the MBTI tests that you take online, such as 16personalities.com, are not truly reflective of what the actual MBTI administered test is like, and they may not indicate the type of results that you would get back from the real MBTI test. In fact, a lot of people don't even know that the MBTI is a real administered personality assessment, and today I want to talk about that. Let's get into it. So not many people know that the MBTI is a actually administered personality assessment, and it's one that is administered by certified MBTI practitioners like myself. And what that means is we go to a week-long certification training course where they teach us about what MBTI is on a deeper level, and then they teach us how to actually administer the test as well as interpret it. And then we learn to take the results that the person gets and really discuss with them what those results mean and help them find their type based on the results they got in the test. And sometimes you'll find that the results that someone gets on the printed test don't actually match their real type. And that's kind of what the certified MBTI practitioner is for, to kind of act as the final step in the typing process. But back to the actual MBTI assessment, not many people know that it is a real personality assessment that is actually administered by someone, which it can be taken online at the MBTI Foundation website. But most of the time it is meant to be taken with a practitioner who's going to help you. So let's talk about how the MBTI test differs from, let's say, 16personalities.com. It's different in how the questions are asked, the format of the questions. So if you go on 16personalities.com or a lot of these other personality assessments, I'm not just picking on them, you'll notice that the way they ask the questions is that they ask you to rate how alike or different you are from a response on a kind of like 1 to 5 scale. Do you agree or disagree? Or are you more like this or are you more like that? On a scale of like 1 to 5. And this differs from the real MBTI in that the real MBTI assessment is a forced choice response questionnaire or assessment. And what that means is you are either one or the other. There are only 2 responses for every single question on the real MBTI assessment. And what this does is forces the person to really think about, are they more like this or are they more like that? And you really have to choose. And this causes the test to be far more reliable than a test that allows you to kind of pick a middle ground. Because if you're choosing on whether or not how much you agree or disagree with something, you'll find that on different days you can really have varying answers to that. One day you might really disagree with something, and on one day you might just slightly disagree. But with a forced choice response questionnaire, you're far more likely to kind of be able to know what side of the coin you're really on, and that's going to allow you to get a better likelihood of finding your real consistent type because you're far more likely to be consistent in your answers. So the real MBTI test is actually called the MBTI Step 1, or the Form M, and it is comprised of 93 of those forced choice response questions. And you go through, you answer all the questions, and at the very end, you get a printed out personality assessment report. And I've got one here. This is actually mine, and I will show it on screen in the lower corner here. It is a 3-page report that tells you your type and then how you responded and answered to questions and what those results mean in the terms of the 4 dichotomies. And there's actually a written version of this test as well, where you can do the 93 questions and self-score. It's called the self-scored Form M Step 1 personality assessment. And a lot of people really don't know that the MBTI is this real, rigid, highly studied personality assessment. And that's kind of why I want to spread this information and let people know that the MBTI is a lot more, I would say, even scientific, valid, and reliable than people tend to think it is. I mean, this right here, this big book, is the MBTI Manual 3rd edition, which comprises of all the statistical information on the currently published MBTI information. It is a huge manual with tons of information, and that's just for the Step 1, which there is a Step 2, and I'm going to talk about that in a separate video. But the MBTI Step 1 is the real MBTI, and if you take this assessment, I think you're far more likely to actually get a real type, or a type that's closer to your real type, than you are taking one of these online ones that tends to use the agree-disagree model of questioning. One of the reasons I think it's really important to talk about the real MBTI, or the step one, is that because in the recent 10 to 15 years, people have really gotten into the habit of kind of developing their own version of the MBTI and pushing it out so they can sell it with things alongside like coaching sessions. And I'm not saying this is entirely wrong, because I think people should be able to upgrade theories and kind of push for new interpretations of theories. But what happens when people do this is that it tends to water down what the real MBTI theory is. So then people online don't know what the real versions of the test are and how it should really be interpreted. For example, people comment on some of my older videos talking about how the 5th through 8th functions are actually kind of like the shadows of the real MBTI types, and real MBTI theory does not believe in the 5th through 8th function. Jungian theory does not support 5th through 8th functions. This is not a part of the real MBTI. And it really confuses people when people come into MBTI theory trying to figure out what their type is and how their type is likely to respond to something, and they can't figure out or differentiate what is real theory from what is theory that people have just pushed out because they've adapted it from their own version of the theory. And I really just want to promote what real MBTI theory is, and I guess that's kind of one of my goals here on this channel, is to teach you MBTI theory through the eyes and through the lens of someone who is a certified MBTI practitioner, and someone who takes this as more than just a hobby, but as a passion as well. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you've learned something new. This has been Asura at Asura Psych. Have a good one.